Morning. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Welcome to another time here. Welcome to another time on the upper room, opportunity and privilege to pray. Thanks for coming. I've been doing a study through the book of Proverbs as we lead ourselves in a place of prayer. And we're presently studying in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1. Started with that yesterday. Talks about a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son the grief of his mother. And we started talking about parenting yesterday. Life, the continuum of life, states that we all start from in a dependent state. We come into this life dependent, all right? We can't do anything ourselves. We're dependent. Then we'll go from dependent into what we call a independent state, right? We grow from dependent into independence as we are able to do some things ourselves, till we get into a phase of life that is called the independent state, because we can do things ourselves, right? We can do things alone. We can be isolated and still survive, but there's another state, the final state, which is called the interdependent state, right? Is a state whereby we release some of our independency, so that we can join with someone else. We join with someone else and release some of our independency, and as it were, depend on someone else as that person depends on us. Is that place where we allow someone else to bless us with their strength, as we bless that person with our strength also. And it's that place where the scriptures will say that one will put to flight 1,000, two will put to flight 10,000. It's called synergy. It's called the mastermind. It's a place where the result of two people coming together produces a chemical reaction, not a mechanical reaction, because one put into flight 1,000 is, and two put into flight 10,000 doesn't equate to 1,000 plus 1,000. It's a higher number, a higher result than just adding the sum of the two together. You produce something that is miraculous, something that is explosive. When two people come into an interdependent relationship. The other word for it, we call it synergy. We also call it a producing of a mastermind, right? When two minds join together effectively, you produce a mastermind effect, right? And that kind of parallels with parenting, right? When we come into this life, in a dependent state, we need to parent, right? We need to parent. But as a place, as that child comes to independence, parenting stops, right? It's coaching, right? The job of a parent in a child's or the person's independent state is coaching, not parenting, because that person has released the dependencies, now in a place where that person can do everything, but just that person lacks the wisdom to do it. That person can do it, but lacks the wisdom to do it. So what they need at that point is not parenting, but is coaching, right? And after coaching, the person comes to an interdependent state where the person learns to give away some of that dependency to be able to get what we call a win-win or a no deal, agreement, right? Where in an independent state, which typically most people are going into a lose-win or win-lose, relationship or result, because it's either my way or your way, right? But in a matured relationship place, what we call interdependency, everyone is seeking for win-win, right? Yeah, it's not trying to deprive another person. It's recognizing that there's enough to go around, right? As I take my own, I don't take it at the expense of someone else. And what we do in the life of our children at that point is mentoring, right? You are mentoring those children. When your child is growing in a way that is not is a failure, is a place where you are still parenting in these last two stages, right? You don't allow that child to grow. We don't allow that child to grow. So you are still parenting instead of coaching or mentoring. So we're still sharing, looking at Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1. It talks about the fact that what a wise son or a wise child and a foolish son or a foolish child reflects on the father and mother. And we're here talking about the different phases of that child growing up, which could result on either that child becoming wise or foolish. When the life continuum is not well matched with the phases in parenting, it'll be a failure. You probably have a foolish child, right? When that child is dependent, our place is to parent. Our place is to do almost everything for that child as that child is growing, because that child needs us. That child needs us, right? That child needs us. The word is need, not want, need, because that child is dependent. That child is just learning how to talk, learning how to abandon that child at that point in time. That child will still survive, but will be deficient. Will be deficient, and doors will be damaged in one form or the other, which will affect that child in other phases of life, right? So if we don't give that child all that child needs at that point of dependency, we damage that child in such a way that in a negative way, because one way or the other, that child will learn to survive by him or herself. That child will learn to ways to make up for the deficiency, which might be less than appropriate for that child's right development, right? So from that place of dependency, that child gains independence, because now that child can do a lot of things, him or herself, right? If we try to parent at that point in time, right? First of all, we're going to cause a schism between us and our child, because that child does not want to be treated as a child at that point in time, because it's no more a child. He's not my child. He has grown. The years have done something to that child. When that child is in the teenager years, you see, they just want to give you one word answers, because they are growing. As much as they are independent, they're still trying to find themselves. They're trying to find an identity for themselves. And somehow the way you relate to them will either enable that or disenable that. You either become their friend or their enemy. The way you understand the struggles that are going on within. Are you adding to that struggle, or you're trying to help them calm the storm that is taking place on their inside? The way you engage them at this time will determine what they eventually become, and how much of who you are they take or they abhor. Then we have made a lot of our children not want to be like us, because we have wrongly engaged them. We have wrongly engaged them so much they detest who we are. They detest the results that we have, and they have sworn to themselves never to be like us, because we have wrongly engaged. We are parenting when we should be coaching. We're coaching when we should be parenting. We're mentoring when we should be coaching. This has to be rightly aligned. Otherwise, you will not have a wise child. You will have a foolish child. You have a deficient child. You will have a damaged child, right? Damaged wrongly, right? So we need to understand that, right? Life continuum is dependency, independency, interdependency, and we need to rightly engage to be able to get the right result in our children. When they are at that stage, when they come on and they are dependent, it's a time to parent, give everything, be there, protect them, watch them. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he ought to go. And when he's old, he will not forget that. That time to invest that 100% is that time when the child before he becomes independent, before he goes into the teenage years, because he's becoming more dependent as he goes into that. Invest your parenting skills in your child. Invest your parenting skills in your child most before that child is 7, because when that child is 7, that child begins to ask questions. The best time to invest in your child is before age 7, because before age 7, that part of the brain, has not fully formed. Where they question you, they can take everything you say hook, line, and sinker. But when that part of the brain is developed, that part of curiosity, they're going to question everything you say. They're not going to take everything you say anymore hook, line, and sinker, right? So the best time to invest your parenting skills is before that child is 7. After 7, you need to be reducing your parenting and doing more coaching. Reduce parenting, more coaching. Reduce parenting, more coaching. Reduce parenting, more coaching. We'll continue tomorrow. God bless you. Thanks for coming along. Have a great remaining of today. See you tomorrow. Shalom. Bye-bye.